Okay, this is a question from the macro exam 2011 question 1. They always start you off some information. In this case, it's the United States economy and it's currently in a recession. Part A asks you to draw the short run and the long run Phillips curve and show a point A where there's a recession. So, Phillips curve, we've got inflation over here. Down here we have unemployment. The short run Phillips curve is downward sloping. The long run Phillips curve is a vertical straight line. Remember, this is the idea that there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment in the short run, but there's no trade-off between those things in the long run. Now, I've got the graph correct, but I'm not done because I got to put a point A somewhere. I know A is not here because it's not full employment. Remember, I want to show a recession. A recession has high unemployment, but low price levels. So the point A has to be somewhere right here, point A. There's 2 points for part A. 1 point for labeling the graph and showing the two curves. Another point for identifying point A on the curve showing a recessionary gap. So 2 points. Now, right next door, I'm going to show you part B. Part B, they ask you to draw the aggregate demand and aggregate supply and the long run average supply showing this recession. So you've got price level on the Y, you've got the real GDP, downward sloping aggregate demand curve, upward sloping aggregate supply curve with price level and output. Now remember, I've got to finish this off by drawing the long run aggregate supply. This point A is the same idea as this point A, right? A recessionary gap. And so the long run aggregate supply is either going to go to the right hand side, down the middle, or to the left. Well, it's going to go right here. So the graph for part B was also worth 2 points. 1 point for aggregate demand and supply together, 1 point for the vertical straight line at the quantity at full employment. 2 points. The question continues. In part C, this government decides to increase taxes. Show the increase of taxes on this graph and identify what happens to price level and quantity. An increase in taxes would decrease people's disposable income and therefore decrease consumer spending, decreasing aggregate demand. So aggregate demand would shift to the left, it would decrease, price level would fall, PL1. So we were here at point A and now we're here at point B, which means we have a deeper recessionary gap. So drawing and showing that on the graph would be another point right here. You didn't need to know this, but make sure you understand the idea. If this is point B, right, so aggregate demand shifted left, what would that look like on the Phillips curve? Well, point B would be somewhere over here, right, because now we have a deeper recessionary gap or more unemployment. In part D, this question switches from talking about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, stuff in Unit 3, to stuff that's in Unit 4, talking about monetary policy. The question says that the Federal Reserve uses expansionary monetary policy to close this recessionary gap. That means there's 3 things the Fed can do. It could decrease the reserve requirement, it could decrease the discount rate, or it can buy bonds. DI says, what open market operation would the Federal Reserve use? So that means the right answer has to be buy bonds. That's another point. Then the question moves on to graph mode and asks you to actually draw the monetary policy you identified at DI. So you have to draw the money market graph, which over here is the nominal interest rate. Down here is the quantity of money. Downward sloping demand for money. A vertical supply of money that's set by the Fed. And they come together to set the nominal interest rate. Now since the Fed bought bonds, that'll increase the money supply to the right. That'll drive down the nominal interest rate. And that's the graph for expansionary monetary policy. So 2 points here, 1 for the initial graph of the money supply, money demand, nominal interest rates, having it all labeled. Another point for showing that shift in the money supply. 2 points. In D3, the question said, what's going to happen to the price level because of this monetary policy? Well, the price level is going to increase, but to get the point, you had to explain why. The reason why is an increase in the supply of money is going to decrease the interest rate, which is going to increase investment. An increased investment would increase aggregate demand. So that's the connector to all these. An increase in aggregate demand would increase price level. So if you have price level up and the explanation, you get another point. Now in E, you have to assume that there was no monetary policy, no fiscal policy, and we're back here at point A with that recessionary gap. The question's asking what would happen in the long run if the government does nothing and has no policy whatsoever. In the long run, the aggregate supply would increase. So the aggregate supply curve would shift and put us right back here at full employment. Now it says explain, so it has to explain why, and the reason's simple. The reason why is because resource prices and wages would decrease. The last part, in E2, what will happen to the natural rate of unemployment if the government does nothing and has no policy whatsoever? The natural rate of unemployment will stay the same. The idea of the natural rate of unemployment is the idea of this vertical line, the long run Phillips curve. In the United States, 4 to 6% is the idea of full employment or the natural rate of unemployment. Remember, it's no cyclical unemployment. If the aggregate supply curve shifts to the right, that's not going to change the natural rate of unemployment at all, right? We're still going to have a certain number of frictional and a certain number of structural unemployment. These last 2 parts are 1 point each. So add it all up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 points total. Add them all up, see how you did. Until next time.